Imagine a civilization covering an area larger than Egypt or Mesopotamia at their peak. 5 million people, massive brick cities, indoor plumbing. And here is the part that makes no sense. We have dug up their cities for 100 years, and we haven't found a single sword. No burned fortresses, no glorified warrior kings. In a world of violence, they did the impossible. They chose peace. This is the Indus Valley Civilization, 4,500 years ago. While Egyptians were building pyramids for god kings, these people were building flush toilets for regular citizens. They had a sewage system superior to anything in Europe until the 18th century. They had standardized weights that didn't change for 1,000 years. And then they vanished, not conquered, just gone. We can't read their writing. We don't know their names. We don't even know what they called themselves. Indus Valley is just a name we gave them because of the river. Think about that. The largest civilization of the ancient world is a total ghost, but the stones still speak. And they tell a story of a utopia that actually worked until the climate turned against them. This is the story of the lost masters of the Indus. For 4,000 years, nobody knew this civilization existed. It was completely erased from memory until 1856. British engineers were building a railway between Karachi and Lahore. They needed ballast, stones to put under the tracks. They found mounds of old bricks nearby, millions of them. Hard, perfectly baked, so they used them. Today, trains in Pakistan are literally running on top of 4,000-year-old priceless archaeological ruins. They destroyed a lost city to build a train track. It wasn't until the 1920s that archaeologists realized those old bricks were from the Bronze Age. They found seals, tiny stone stamps used for trade. They showed animals, tigers, elephants, and a creature that looks exactly like a unicorn. Suddenly, the timeline of human history broke. We thought civilization started in Mesopotamia and Egypt. Turns out there was a third player, and it was the biggest one of all. They called the first city Harappa, the second Mohenjo-daro, the Mound of the Dead. These weren't villages, these were metropolises. 40,000 people living in downtown Mohenjo-daro. That's the population density of modern-day Manhattan in 2500 BC. When most of the world was still living in small huts, these guys were living in two-story apartment complexes with private courtyards. But look at the layout. If you look at ancient London or Paris, the streets are a mess. Winding, chaotic, unplanned. Mohenjo-daro is a grid, north-south, east-west, perfect 90-degree angles. Main boulevards were exactly twice as wide as side streets. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because someone planned it, someone measured it, and someone enforced it. But the real flex, the plumbing. Almost every house in Mohenjo-daro had a private bathing area. Many had toilets. The waste didn't just dump into the street. It went into terracotta pipes buried underground, leading to a city-wide sewage system. They had manholes for cleaning the pipes. Let that sink in. They had better sanitation 4,500 years ago than London had in the 1850s. And in the center of the city, there wasn't a palace. There wasn't a temple to a scary god. There was a pool, the Great Bath. A massive, waterproof tank built with bitumen, natural tar. We think it was for ritual cleansing. In Egypt, the biggest building is a tomb for a king. In Mesopotamia, it's a ziggurat for a god. In the Indus Valley, the biggest building is a public bath that tells you everything about their priorities. Cleanliness wasn't just hygiene, it was their religion. They were obsessed with water. Mohenjo-daro had over 700 freshwater wells, one well for every 3 houses. Imagine a city today where the government guarantees fresh water to every single home for free. We struggle with that now. They solved it in the Bronze Age, but their mastery of water would eventually turn against them. We'll get to that. Here is the weirdest part, the part that keeps archaeologists up at night. We have found toys, dice, whistles, jewelry. We have found 0 palaces, no royal tombs, no massive statues of conquerors, and most shockingly, almost no weapons. We found a few copper knives and spearheads, but they're flimsy. They look like kitchen tools, not weapons of war. No swords, no heavy armor, no smashed skulls in the graves. Who was in charge? We found this guy. We call him the Priest King, but he's tiny, only 7 inches tall. He's not holding a weapon. He's looking calm. Imagine a society that ran for 700 years without a police state, without a standing army, without a dictator plastering his face on every wall. How did they keep order among 1 million people? Trade. They were the ultimate bureaucrats. We found these stone weights. Whether you were in a city in the north or a port in the south, 500 miles away, the weights were identical. The bricks, the ratio was always 1 to 2 to 4. Always. For centuries. That's not a dictatorship of force. That's a dictatorship of efficiency. They didn't need kings because they had a system, a corporate empire 4,000 years early. And they were rich. We found Indus seals in Mesopotamia. They were exporting timber, cotton, and jewelry to the rest of the world. They built the world's first tidal dockyard at Lothal. They were the factory of the ancient world, the China of the Bronze Age. Everyone wanted what they were making. So, how do you kill a civilization that has no enemies? You take away its water. Around 1900 BC, the city started to empty. The drains clogged. The standard weights disappeared. People started building sloppy houses on top of the old grand avenues. For decades, we thought Aryans invaded and killed them. But the skeletons don't show war wounds. They show malaria and malnutrition. It was climate change. The great river system they relied on, the Gagar Hakra, likely the legendary Saraswati River, shifted course. The monsoons weakened. The lifeblood of the empire simply evaporated. It didn't happen overnight. It was a slow apocalypse. 100 years of slightly less rain, slightly worse crops. The surplus vanished. Then the trade stopped. Then the cities became tombs. They didn't all die. They moved. They migrated east toward the Ganges. They went back to small villages. They lost the writing. They lost the city planning. They lost the flush toilets. But the culture survived. The way South Asian women wear bangles today, identical to the dancing girl statue we found. The yoga poses on the seals. We still see them. The cities were lost. The people remained. There is still so much we don't know because we can't read their words. Maybe one day we'll find a Rosetta Stone for the Indus script, and suddenly these silent people will speak to us. Until then, they stand as a warning. You can be rich, you can be peaceful, you can be advanced, but if the water runs out, civilization is fragile. The Indus people left us almost no weapons. They remain a mystery. But elsewhere, history was about to get very loud and very specific. Next time, we look at the first battle in human history, where we know exactly what happened. The tactics, the generals, the mistake that almost cost an empire. It was a masterclass in military genius. Next time, the Battle of Megiddo.